Health Chats. I'm Claire Davis, and we are all about bringing emotional fitness into our lives. Our topic this month is sleep, and we have the lovely Brendan Duffy with us. Hello, Brendan. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for being here, Brendan. And would you like to tell everybody where you're calling from?
I am calling from Long Island, New York. It's where I live and work, so it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I've been to New York. I haven't been to Long Island, so I have to get there. I've always
Sure.
wanted to go there. So, Brendan, would you like to tell everybody who is Brendan Duffy?
Sure. I am a registered sleep tech. I am the director of the Sleep Centers of Long Island, Catholic Health Services of Long Island.
Wow. So when you say you're a registered sleep tech,
Mhm.
what do you actually do? What does that mean?
In the past, and now I'm a director, but in the past, the registered sleep tech for 8 years, I actually sat in and ran sleep studies that you may have heard. People are diagnosed for sleep apnea or any of the other 90 sleep disorders, and they come to a lab and they get tested in the lab. Now it's possible to do that at home, but back when I started, it was all done in the lab.
Wow. And this topic is all about sleep for performance and recovery. So
Mhm.
what's your expertise in sleep for performance and recovery?
It could mean business for business folks, or it could mean for athletes. In my case, have a niche where I actually work with NCAA teams and athletes
Yeah.
to educate them, because a lot of times they are not educated about how sleep impacts both their performance and recovery.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. And I'm somebody, I've always believed sleep is good for me. I know when I sleep well, I'm thinking a lot clearer. I'm being a lot more productive at work. I'm getting a lot more done. I'm feeling on top of things. So let's talk about performance and recovery. Why
Mhm.
is sleep so important for performance and recovery?
Well, basically, for the reasons you mentioned, that you have to be at the top of your game, and the main way to get there is through your sleep. You don't want to start off as a deficit. So, what I will go in and explain to them is their reaction time. For me or you, if we miss a second in a presentation and we're slower, we're not going to get hurt. But for them, their performance is tantamount to them being fully rested, so their cognitive skills are there and their reaction time is there. So to see that pass, to have that peripheral vision, to even the emotions are changed by not having sleep, to be reading people's faces and expressions and kind of planning ahead what the next play is. So for a lot of those reasons, their performance is impacted by how they sleep, and their recovery. It's nice that they don't get injured in the first place, but if they do get injured, then a lot of their recovery happens through good sleep.
That's absolutely amazing. So they perform, thinking about these amazing athletes, and our next door neighbor is actually an Olympian for
Mm.
gymnastics. And it's that millisecond, really.
Yes, yes, yes.
And sleep can really affect them, obviously. So what's the impact if they're not sleeping enough or having quality sleep?
Well, more injuries, and we have to remember that when we give sleep hygiene tips to the average person, they have a normal schedule. But business travelers or athletes or musicians, they're all on different schedules where they're in different towns from day to day. So it's not only trying to make them aware of sleep is not just an inconvenient thing that you give whatever time is left, but you actually plan your sleep the same way you do strategies for your game, and it's a different mindset that if they think that way, they'll do well. The NBA has started to catch on, and you'll see the National Basketball Association. There are less and less back-to-back games, and actually, we get in trouble as sleep professionals because we're explaining the science, so now they're resting star players. And unfortunately, if you have a son or a daughter who's going to the game, it's hard for you to understand why they're not injured, but they're not playing. But it's because of the science saying this is the way to keep them healthy and performing through a full season, not just a month.
That's so interesting, and it's so true. And I love what you said there, in that we really need to plan our sleep.
Hmm.
When we're even high performers in the workplace, the
Yep.
managers, the senior leaders, we often don't plan our sleep. The highest
Right.
birds don't plan our sleep. They just want to work longer and longer and longer, and then that's going to be of detriment to their recovery.
Right. And the coaches too. There's
Yeah.
a lot of cases where the coaches, they just think that more is better, and then sometimes
Yeah.
it's not. So they spend hours through the night watching films and plays and things like that. And a number of them have burnt out and had to take time off and learn about time management and how important sleep is. But back to your point, I like to think of sleep as the main course, and too many times we treat it as leftovers. So,
That's a really good way of looking at it, actually. We
yeah.
do treat it as leftovers. And I think, this modern day where we're on the go all the time, we're expected to do
Mhm.
more and more and more. And with technology as well,
Yep.
it can be very, very difficult to get our quality sleep.
Yes. Yes.
So what would
Different
be
schedules.
different schedules? And you did mention about people who are traveling a lot. I mean, I'm from the other side of the world, and I know with jet lag, when
Yes.
I go back to Australia from the UK, when I have jet lag, it just really affects me. It affects me in my mood. It affects me in the way I want to socialize, etc. So
Right.
this must be happening a lot for these high performing sportsmen,
Yeah.
etc.
Athletes and business people. I mean, they go
Yeah.
through it too, where they're jet setting, all the time back and forth. And there is things you can do to mitigate it when you work with sleep specialists, such as, when do you use caffeine? When do you use melatonin? When are you exposing yourself to light? When are you dimming the light? So there are different strategies that we've worked with. I know uh, one of the triathletes I worked with did very well all the way to Abu Dhabi from California for a world triathlete, and he finished third. And it was the first time that he actually thought about, let's plan, let's manage that part. And it starts well before you get on the flight. It starts a week before that you're starting to make adaptations to make that jet lag lesser.
Yeah. And that goes with travel for work as well, obviously.
Yes, yes, of course. Yep.
Absolutely brilliant. Oh, sure. You've given me so much food for thought there, Brendan. Thank
Good,
you so
good.
much. I'm just going to put you on the spot here. Can you tell us what your top tip would be for somebody around planning their sleep?
Routine, a consistent routine, to get up at the same time every morning because you want to get up and your brain craves that routine. So even if you get to bed a little later, try to get up at the same time and try to get out and expose yourself to light because that's going to set that next night's sleep. So the routine and getting up at the same time is the number one consistent first step.
That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you. So
And
we
people
need,
like to sleep in on the
yeah,
weekends, and that starts a whole roller coaster where they can't get to sleep in bed. So if you gotta sleep in, keep it within an hour, but don't go 2 or 3 hours.
that's a really good tip. And that's really interesting because on weekends I can't sleep in.
Uh,
So I'm in
uh,
a routine because I can't. So
yeah,
that's a great tip. I'm doing it right. I'm doing it right, Brendan.
you're good.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's really think about our performance in the workplace, in whatever we want to do. And remember, we need to recover, and we can do that with our sleep. So, Brendan, the last thing, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who would love to get in touch and find out more. You've got so much information. So would you like to tell people where they can find you?
Sure, I'm out on LinkedIn. If you look up Brendan Duffy on LinkedIn and RPSGT, which is the registration acronym, you can find me there. They can write to me at the hospital, brendan.duffy@chsli.org.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to answer any questions they may have or anything that's going on. So it's a pleasure.
Thank you. And you've written some really interesting papers as well, haven't you?
Yeah, if you go out and Google my name and put sleep and athletes, you'll find probably pages on Google of things I've written in the past. And I have an ebook. If anybody wants it, I could send it to you. You could forward.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Brendan, so much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you. And let's think about our sleep for better performance and recovery. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Take care. Thank you.
Have a great day and a great night.
Thank you.